The observation chamber hummed with the soft whir of environmental controls, maintaining the precise temperature and humidity that Wren's species required. Dr. Alara Miles stood motionless beside the reinforced glass panel, her tablet forgotten in her hands as she watched the young Vorkesh cub explore its new enclosure. Wren was barely 3 cycles old, equivalent to a human toddler, but already stood nearly 4 feet tall on powerful digitigrade legs. Charcoal gray fur covered its muscular frame, broken only by the distinctive crimson markings along its spine that would darken to blood red as it matured. Its species had evolved as apex predators on Vorkal Prime, a death world where only the strongest, fastest, and most cunning survived to reproduce. The Galactic Council had classified the Vorkesh as Category 5 sentience, intelligent but irredeemably violent. When their world was discovered, the adult population had attacked first and asked questions never. The genocide that followed was considered a tragic necessity by most species in the galaxy. Alara had been among the few voices of dissent. Now, in the research station orbiting the ruins of Vorkal Prime, she worked with the only survivors, the cubs who had been too young to fight, too innocent to kill. The council wanted them studied, catalogued, and ultimately euthanized before they could mature into the monsters their parents had been. Alara had other plans. Wren approached the mirror that Alara had installed that morning. It was a simple thing, really, just a reflective surface mounted at cub height along one wall. But for a creature that had never seen its own face, it might as well have been a gateway to another dimension. The cub froze, ears flattening against its skull. In the mirror, another young Vorkesh stared back, equally still, equally tense. Wren's lips peeled back from needle-sharp teeth, exposing the serrated fangs that could tear through ballistic fiber. A low growl rumbled from its chest, the sound resonating through the observation chamber like distant thunder. The reflection growled back. Wren lunged forward, slamming both paws against the mirror. The reinforced glass held firm, but the impact echoed through the chamber. The cub snarled, snapped, and clawed at the image before it, convinced that an enemy had infiltrated its territory. Most researchers would have recorded the behavior, added it to their reports as further evidence of the species' aggressive nature, and moved on. Alara set down her tablet and walked to the enclosure door. "Dr. Miles, I must advise against," the station's AI began. "Override authorization Miles 7 Alpha," Alara said calmly. And the door hissed open. She stepped inside and Wren immediately whirled toward her. The cub's pupils dilated to black voids, its haunches bunching for a leap that would bring 70 pounds of claws and fury straight at her throat. "Hey, little one," Alara said softly, crouching down to make herself less threatening. She'd learned early in her work that Vorkesh cubs responded to body language more than words. "It's okay. You're okay." Wren hesitated, nostrils flaring as it processed her scent. Over the past weeks, Alara had become a constant in the cub's life, the bringer of food, the source of warmth, the one who made the frightening loneliness a little more bearable. Slowly, the tension drained from its frame. Alara approached the mirror, keeping her movement slow and deliberate. Wren watched her warily, then turned its attention back to the intruder in the glass. Another warning growl bubbled up. "That's not another cub, Wren," Alara said gently. She placed her hand against the mirror, and her reflection did the same. "See, it's me." "It's my reflection." Wren's head tilted, ears perking forward with curiosity. It looked at Alara, then at her reflection, then back again. "And this," Alara continued, reaching out slowly to touch the top of Wren's head, "is you." She guided the cub forward, its claws clicking against the floor. When they were close enough, Alara pointed at Wren's reflection. "That's you, little one. You're seeing yourself." Wren stared at the image, its breath fogging the glass. One paw lifted tentatively, and when the reflection mimicked the movement, the cub's ears shot forward in surprise. It lifted the other paw. The reflection matched it. Then Wren did something that Alara would replay in her mind for years to come. The cub pressed its nose against the mirror, touching nose to nose with its own reflection. Its eyes widened not with aggression or fear, but with something that looked remarkably like wonder. "Yes," Alara whispered, her throat tight with emotion. "That's you. You exist. You matter." In the observation room beyond the glass, 3 members of the Galactic Council watched in silence. They had come to review Alara's research. to determine once and for all whether the Vorkesh cub should be preserved or destroyed. Counselor Girat, a towering centurion whose species had nearly been wiped out by the adult Vorkesh during first contact, leaned forward. Self-recognition. Stage 4 cognitive development. Impossible, Counselor Ven muttered, his crystalline form refracting the light into prismatic patterns. The psychological profiles indicated they were incapable of self-awareness beyond basic survival instincts. Perhaps, said Counselor Tamaya, her voice like wind through leaves, we confuse trauma with nature. In the enclosure, Ren had begun to explore the mirror with new enthusiasm. It watched itself move, testing how the reflection responded. When it opened its mouth, the reflection opened its mouth. When it tilted its head, the reflection tilted back. Ilara sat beside the cub, her own reflection keeping vigil next to Ren's. You know what this means? She asked the cub softly. It means you can learn. It means you can grow. It means you're not just a predator. You're a person. Ren turned away from the mirror and looked at Ilara. Then, in a gesture that made her heart skip, the cub gently head-butted her shoulder, a sign of trust among its kind. Through the observation window, Counselor Girat's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. I've spent 2 years advocating for their extermination, he said slowly. I watched these creatures kill my creshmates. I've dreamed of revenge, and now? Tamaya asked. Girat watched as Ren climbed into Ilara's lap, still glancing back at the mirror as if to confirm that its reflection would follow. Now I wonder if perhaps we killed the wrong generation. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but it was enough. The Vorkesh cubs would live. They would be raised, educated, and given a chance to become something their parents never were. A species that chose peace not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to recognize themselves in others. Years later, when Ren became the first Vorkesh ambassador to the Galactic Council, journalists would ask about the turning point. When did the galaxy decide to give them a chance? Ren would always smile, a carefully practiced expression that no longer frightened other species, and say, "The day a human showed me a mirror and taught me the most important lesson. Before you can understand others, you must first understand yourself." And somewhere, on a teaching station orbiting a restored Vorkal Prime, Dr. Ilara Miles would smile too, remembering a curious cub pressing its nose to the glass, discovering for the first time that the creature staring back was worth knowing.